Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's edition of the afternoon edition. My name is Isa Nu. Today we still continue on the issue of the state of the nation, and most especially zooming it down to the issues of insecurity in the country. And Nigeria amid security and economic challenges is a major issue that we've been looking for towards making sure that, yes, we have a better way to resolve most of our security and economic challenges. And as Nigeria grapples with a challenging security situation exacerbated by an ongoing economic crisis, Kaduna State emerges as a focal point of concern. Recent events have underscored the severity of the challenges facing the country, with a string of high-profile kidnappings and violent incidents plaguing the region. That's, Kaduna State. For some time now. Even if you can remember, just last year we had a series of issues with respect to kidnapping in Kaduna State. And Kaduna State is a neighboring state to the FCT. That's how close it is to the center, which invariably infers that we need to put more effort in saying that issues that has to do with security in that particular region is brought to book. And so just over a week ago, the abduction of 287 school students sent shockwaves across the nation, highlighting the vulnerability of communities in Kaduna State. Days later, another 61 residents fell victims to this kidnapper, further intensifying fears among the populace. In response to the escalating security threats, authorities took decisive action by ordering the establishment of a mobile police force based in the state. However, questions linger over the effectiveness of such measures in addressing the root causes of the insecurity. Nigeria's military on Tuesday said troops have rescued 16 abductees in the northwest part of northwest part of the country, that's Kaduna State, after exchanging fire with insurgents who attacked a local community on Sunday night. And one of the two kidnap attacks in the area over the weekend. According to a military statement posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, troops responded to a tip about the operation in that particular state by non-state actors in Tantatu community in Kajuru district. The military said the attackers had taken several hostages before they arrived and exchanged fire with them and saved 16 of the abductees. According to local media report, 87 people, including women and children, went missing from that Sunday attack. So barely 24 hours after gunmen captured 16 people from their homes in Dogon Noma, another community in Kajuru, the situation took a tragic turn on March 14 when 16 soldiers, including senior officers, were brutally killed and decapitated in the south state of Delta. South region, of Delta State. The soldiers were deployed to mediate a conflict between rival communities in the Bomadi region, underscoring the dangers faced by security personnel operating in volatile areas. So this development underscored the urgent need for comprehensive strategies to address both the security and economic challenges facing Nigeria, as Kaduna State remains as the epicenter of the crisis. Concerted efforts are required to restore stability and safeguard the well-being of its residents. So that will be our point of focus today, because we have two major issues now. How can the issue in Kaduna State that has been reoccurring be resolved? And also, how can we also see that, yes, there is that beautiful relationship established between civilians and the military who provide security of lives and property. So these are the questions that we'll be asking our guests today on how we can manage this turbulent time, despite the fact that we are still having a major issue in resolving some of our economic challenges. So we'll go on this break, and when we return, we'll start up with the conversation. Welcome back. We apologize for the late commencement of the second round, and definitely this was due to an issue that had to be fixed before we commence the conversation. And today we're having Mr. Olariwaju Fowobi Desmond, who is here in the studio. He's a peace advocate and also a public affairs analyst. And I'll just go straight to some of the issues that has been bothering Nigerians with respect to all that is happening in the country. So, Mr. Olariwaju, what's your take generally, looking at the situation of the country? We are grappling with the issue of economic challenges, and then we are also facing a major issue that has to do with security with respect to what happened in Kaduna State recently.
Thank you, Isa, for having me this great afternoon, and good afternoon to all the viewers and listeners. Uh, I am here. First of all, I would like to appreciate you for bringing me to your station this afternoon, and particularly on the current happenings as regard economic realities and security challenges. My heart is with every gallant soldiers who lost their lives in the wake of event that took place in Okoloma and in Delta State, Ugbeli local government of Delta State, where we have some issues that has to do with the killings of 16 gallant soldiers and men. It's really disheartening, and I pray that their soul be with our Lord. Having said that, the economic reality in Nigeria, it has been for a while, but I know that there's definitely going to be light at the end of the tunnel. While the government is working tirelessly to pull the country back, we as people must also understand that there is no quick fix to economic challenges that we are having, particularly in Nigeria. If you look at the antecedent, or if you look at the build-up to the decay that we are currently having, for every problem we have in Nigeria, I will tell you that it happens because of what? Neglect. It is as a result of years of neglect, and the economic problem we have in Nigeria is so complex that even at some point you will even think that the government have lost ideas in resolving the issues. It is not that they lost ideas, but the problems have compounded. They are complex. The complexities of the problems is not something you expect anybody to face in 1 month, 2 months, or even in 1 year. I'm not even expecting to see every day we are seeing improvement, but I'm not seeing that drastic change that we are all looking for in the next 6 months. But I know that it's a work in progress. Ashwaju is winning the war. We as a citizen only have one duty and responsibility, and that is to support and give necessary support to complement. When I say complement, not just with word of mouth. Whatever we are doing, we should put the country at heart. We should be I want to use the word patriotic. We should have the love of our country at heart, because I see that some of the problem we are having in Nigeria is as a result that some people feel like they don't own this country. Some people feel like it is their country, and forgetting that we are no longer talking about elections, we are no longer talking about politics, we are talking about governance. This is not the time for you to say it is not our government. As a result of that, you wish the country bad, and even orchestrate or planned some negative things, that will even affect the country, because you feel like it is us versus them. I'm talking about people who feel like they are not part of this. So the only way we can have a win, or we can have drastic win over the war against economic woes in Nigeria, is when everybody consider themselves stakeholder in this Nigeria project and contribute from their own cover, from their own purse, from their own work, from their own environment, locality and community to the development of the country. Now, there is a connection as a peace advocate and as a peace scholar. There is a connection between conflict and underdevelopment. There is a very thin line between progress, peace, and economic development. A country that has been beveled with series of economic and violent conflict over the years, you will find out that our development is going to be slow. So every Nigerian should understand that though you may be in the south, you might not be affected by what is happening in Kaduna presently, but anywhere, anytime Nigeria is being mentioned in negative light, it affects the economy of that country. And that is why those whose work is to orchestrate plan to disorganize or destabilize governments, they are doing that at their own detriment as well. It's just a matter of time. You might be doing something right now from the south, against the north and you think it doesn't affect you, at the end of the day, what goes around will surely comes around. You see, some of these planned kidnapping you're seeing right now from here and there, before now, in 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015, nobody would believe that we'll be having issues of kidnapping in the south, killings of people in the south. Before, it is limited to the northeast, and some people that are far away with it is their business. But today, it is no longer their business. Kidnapping is no longer their business in the northeast. Kidnapping is now our business in every part of Nigeria, even in the most peaceful aspect of our Ondo, Ekiti, even Lagos. So it's because some of us, sometimes we are not patriotic enough as citizens, and that is why we left him to deteriorate. And deteriorating a situation of the complex problems we have in Nigeria right now is not even making the government organize. So where do you want to look at now? Is it Kaduna you want to look at now? Or Okwama community in Delta? Or you are going to look at the community in Bayelsa State? Or you are going to look everywhere in Nigeria is in disarray. So we cannot continue like this. We as people, we need to take ownership of this country. We need to go back to drawing board as regards economic, because there is a connection between economy and peacefulness. When there is no peace, you don't expect your country to progress economically. So it is when the country is moving in a peaceful way that people can be productive, because peacefulness brings what they call economic prosperity and balance. When a person is balanced, you can be innovative, you can be creative. There is nobody that can be creative when you are restless, when you are not having peace of mind. You can only be creative, you can only be productive, you can only innovate when there is peace of mind. Then the heart, the brain, the connection, the body will work.
Okay, so many persons have this belief that the present government is aware of all these challenges before they came on board. Yes. And by now they believe that at least we must have seen progress, most especially when it comes to the issue of security, because before now there was this issue of, okay, we're going to use technology to drive home some of these insecurity issues, but still we are still grappling with that particular one. And if you take note of it very well, Kaduna State is just a border town from the Federal Capital Territory. So why are we still finding it difficult? Should we still maintain the status quo of using the same methodology in tackling this issue, or there should be a dimensional shift from how we manage these issues?
There has always been dimensional shifts. The military, the Nigerian security architecture, the security agencies, they have always improved. They have infused the use of technology. The public knows. You need to understand that why people that are out there that are not in the business of security, or that are not directly involved in securing this country, may just be saying that they should improve. These people are improving. Nigeria is improving in terms of technology, in terms of fighting. But do you know what we are facing in Nigeria? The situation we are facing in Nigeria is a situation of interest, both within and outside. I was about going there. Do you think what is happening in Delta State today is completely outside the interference of third parties? No. And they take advantage of in-house person to perpetrate this thing. They are like shadow agents. They are like shadow parties. But they have people within that they use to orchestrate some of this evil because of interest. At the end of the day, now why is it Delta State? Why are we talking about South now? Why are we going back to the era of rivers of war, rivers of blood, deltas of war, deltas of blood? Why are we going back to that era? We are gradually moving back to that era. If what happened some days back, a week ago, is not quickly arrested, investigation be brought to book, be brought to book. You need to understand that what is happening there is not completely outside or free from the interference of shadow parties. I can say this anytime, any day, because I did peace studies and I know that the influence of some of these shadow parties has been the reason why we are having complex problems in Nigeria. Go to Institute of Conflict and Institute of Peace and Conflict Resolution there at Central Area. You want to tell me that if they know what they are doing, they wouldn't know that something like this will happen? Because we are not taking advantage of what? Of our technology, and take advantage of the information. We don't even respond. We don't do our investigation. And mind you, the killings, you know what we are hearing right now is the object. That's why the state governor has bigger role to play than the military, than the federal government. Because I heard that on the 7th, there were meeting between this Okoloma and the other community. They have settlement. They signed a treaty. Then there must be some underlying issues, and it has to do with land. It has to do with land. It has to do with resources. The conflict between these two communities is not about ladies. It's not about who dress more, who is more innovative. It's about the land. It's about the resources. And when you talk about resources, you're talking about their interests. There are interests. How would youths of a particular community killed 16 soldiers in that manner?
But the soldiers wouldn't have been party to all these their interests that they have. They are there for peacekeeping. We've seen the release made by the president. We've heard from the military. So yes, why should they be killed?
And that's why I say these shadow parties are taking advantage and making use of people available, some bad elements, some saboteurs. Some saboteurs, it could be in the army, some saboteurs, it could be within the community, and that is where intelligence, national intelligence, security intelligence needs to come in. You need to understand that every conflict, there is an interest. You need to understand. Now, we should pay more. If you focus more on the interest, it will trace you to the issues. Then you can now begin to understand, unravel the shadow parties. But when you get carried away by the object of the issues, because in every conflict there is an object and there is what they call issues. It is when you take your mind away from the object, you focus on the issues, it will take you to the interest. The interest will now expose the shadow partners.
Don't you think the leadership of the security architecture in Nigeria should be aware, as at this particular point in time, because I got an inline that some of the perpetrators were actually caught. That was on Tuesday thereabout, and as a result of that, definitely there will be more investigation.
There will be more investigation. You know, I don't know, it still goes back to sabotage. Why government is making so much effort, putting so much investment in our security architecture? Within the apparatus, we still have saboteurs. We still have people that are, because if not for sabotage, there are technologies that the government has put in place that can help to track some of these problems. They are not working.
The former minister said this, that's Isa Ali Pantami. He said he has put up structures.
They have these technologies. They have this technology. But the question is, at some particular points, there is always a disconnect. There is always somebody to, you know, when you plug something and somebody switch the switch, what will happen? Will you get the result? No. But you'll be wondering that this thing is here. But because the switch has been turned off, it cannot do what it's supposed to do at that particular time, at that material time, that is supposed to help you capture something. Somebody has sabotaged that effort. So you need to understand this thing. That is why I still have issues with the issue with the National Intelligence Agency. They need to do more. You understand? Even within our security architecture and our communities, we cannot continue like this. I can say this for a fact, that the problems we're having in Nigeria as regard development, economic security, is because of we have every presence of saboteurs within even governments.
And that can be traced to even the issue of the Kaduna State kidnapping, where the kidnappers will make calls to the family members to bring ransom and the rest. Until this moment, you still find it very difficult for them to be held to book. But then, if you listen to what one of the scholars in Kaduna State, Shegumi, said, he said security men knows the location of this particular people that were kidnapped in Kajuru. but then you still start asking questions, why are they still there?
You see, it's not I think it was Abacha or Babangida who made this statement that if insecurity thrives in your community in Nigeria for more than 24 hours, government have
48 hours. Yeah.
48 hours. You see, let me tell you, kidnappers, bandits, terrorists, they are not spirits. They are human beings. An efficient security system will detect. An efficient security system without sabotage would arrest this situation in 48 hours.
So in this case, are you saying that this is a deliberate effort to see that yes,
that is why it is even more annoying. Now, I'm not pointing accusing figure directly to Nigerians. It might not even be within the sovereignty of the country. It might be a shadow party outside the shores of Nigeria. That is where intelligence needs to come in. That is where patriotism needs to come in. That is where we need to take away the issue of selfishness. You don't take $1 million to destroy your people, and because of that, you want to buy into some of these shady deals. You need to understand what is happening in the world. There are people who produce ammunition. They need to sell. There are people who are interested in penetrating your economy. They need to use what they call divide and rule. Nigeria has not overcome the era of divide and rule since 1951 till now. Divide and rule is still very much in vogue, despite the fact that Nigeria is a sovereign state. And yet, there comes the issue of intelligence. What is our intelligence doing? These things can be traced. When you understand issues, you understand interests, you will know who and who. You can even trace to that place. All this kind of thing cannot happen. Americans, sometimes they tell that some Russian invade Americans, some agents and all that. But they're able to track that person to the root. Why is it that ever since we've been investigating issues in Nigeria, we've not been able to come to the root, to link it to, okay, Americans are involved Americans are responsible for our roles in Nigeria, Russia is but you keep telling interest. Who are those interests? Are they spirits? They are not spirit. But because some people within the system are cooperating with these external bodies, that is why they continue to have what? A fit in destroying this country to their own selfish interests and to their own advantage.
Okay, we'll go on a very short break now, and when we return, I would like you to respond to this particular issue that when it comes to the issue of national security, for instance,
yes.
now, and we have people trying to sabotage
yes.
The government. At what point should the government now come and say these are the people that have actually pushed in funds to further fuel this issue of this crisis? But then we'll take a very short break now, and when we return, I will continue with Honorable Fowobi Olariwaju Desmond to discuss more about these challenges that we are facing. Welcome back from the break, and still with us here in the studio is a public affairs and peace advocate analyst in person of Honorable Olariwaju Desmond Fowobi. We've been speaking on the issues that borders around the issue of security and how it is also affecting the economy, despite the effort that is being made by the government to see that yes, we have a very stable economy. And we've actually started seeing that with respect to the forex, on how the government has been able to play a key role in balancing that particular aspect. And even just between yesterday and today, you discover that even the Naira further gained more in the forex. So these are some of the issues that we'll be grappling with. But then security, despite the fact that the government is stabilizing the economic, security is still a major issue in the country, because the more you put effort on the economy, and security is still a major challenge, definitely you are going to have challenges of foreign direct investment, even local investment also may even dwindle, and then the fate of the farmers returning to farm for us to have more produce in the market definitely will be affected. So Honorable, there is this particular issue that has been happening in the FCT here. And if you remember, at some point, people were saying the minister was not actually working, and the rest because of the issue of the one chance issue, the issue of kidnapping was on the rise as at then. But now, you discover that certain decisions that were taken by the minister has further helped the situation in the FCT. It's been long, you hear of all those cases, especially at night. You can see that our street lights are now back. Should we adopt the Wiki strategy of identifying these persons and putting price tags on them for us to be able to get them?
Why that may have worked in the FCT, it might not work in other parts of Nigeria. I wouldn't say we shouldn't try. In as much as we are getting a positive result from that, I think we should deploy that nationally. But the fact remains that the government, the security architecture of this country cannot deny to know these people. The truth is this: I know that sometimes insecurity, there are things that will happen between a man and a woman, and he will refuse to tell his in-laws or his children for security reasons, for peace to reign in the family. Likewise in this country, there are some people that even government grant amnesty. Why do government grant amnesty? But because they need them to do that to maintain peace. You can't tell me that you don't know. Even our days in the university, we are aware of the dons. We know the barons. We know them. Some of them have been there for over 5 years for a course they are supposed to do for 4 years. They will refuse to leave the school. They will start causing problems within. We know, even in every sector, in the agricultural sector, in the power sector, in the foreign exchange, in our education sector, there are certain people that the only time they benefit is when they orchestrate some problems, is when they cause some problems. That is what they feed on. While you make your money by working as a journalist, some people make money by being criminals.
Conflictpreneurs,
if you want to put it that way. That is what they do. And these people are so organized that they control cartels. They have serious security system. They have system. Their identity is unknown. Some of them, they look like innocent, but they are not innocent. But that is not to say that the government or security will not know. It's not possible. Otherwise, no president will want to live in Nigeria. No FCT minister want to stay in the FCT when you don't have understanding of the security of that environment. You wouldn't want to stay in your house when you know that there's a criminal inside your house. If you are hearing a sound of a criminal in your house, will you enter the house? You can only enter when you already have an agreement. I understand that this criminal has been constrained to this aspect of the house, and it cannot cause me danger. It cannot cause any harm or danger to me. That is when you go into the house. That is something to our state, our community, and our country. Don't forget that these people, some of them support and sponsor elections. Some of these people that perpetrate evils in our communities, they sponsor elections to the tune of billions of naira.
Seems that the politicians are also aware of that.
Wow. Even in your community, don't you know them? You know them. In your community, you will know that man is no go area. There are some people that will slap and do anything in the street area. Please don't go there. There are people like that. There are some boys that you cannot trample upon in your community. Even in my community that we know. Imagine if me, without any intelligence, have knowledge of the bad guys, the bad boys in the community, talk more or less of the government and the security that already have their case filed, and everybody right from years. You cannot be a criminal and be an expert one day. It is just like when you master a trade. At the course of that trading, you will interface with different buyers. These criminals interface with government, they interface with security agents, the security apparatus, they interface with judges, and they know all these people. It's just that there are some people that, I don't know why they have that status of untouchable, that when you touch them, greater harm will befall people. And that is why you see that we try to live even with criminals. But at this point, I want to charge the federal government for the sake of the fight that the federal government is putting up against economic hardship, for you to win, you need to fight those criminals in our streets. We need to wash away these criminals out of our cities, out of our country, and that is when we can see tangible improvement for all the work that the federal government and the new government of Atuadu is putting in place. Otherwise, we will continue to run in a circle. We will continue to run in a circle. Every state, they have their cartel. In this country, kidnapping has become so organized that people now try their trade in different states. They are now doing what they call branch. They are now opening branches. You know, where they have headquarters. Now they are now having branches in states, and that is why you are seeing what is happening. See, a kidnapper, an organized kidnapper in Lagos is connected to that person in North. That organized kidnapper in the southeast is connected with that kidnapper, successful kidnapper in the southwest. These people are organized, and that's why we need a system to counter their system. And that is where the issue of patriotism will need to come in, because people who love money, people who worship money, will always hide the truth from the public. And that's why I said, even within the system, there are people who love money to the point of ready to sabotage efforts that billions have been invested in, lives have been lost on.
Do you think in this particular sense, do you think it is important that the government, that's the federal government itself or the president, changes the security apparatus we have in the country?
How do you change it? You cannot start from square one, it will be worse. You cannot start. Security is a very delicate issue. I am not, kudos to our Nigerian police, kudos to the Nigerian army, kudos to the Nigerian government, and that's why I continue to use the word saboteurs. It's not that everybody there is bad. It's not that we don't have gallant officers, patriotic officers. We do have them. But one saboteur, just one saboteur, can destroy efforts that it takes years to build. Just like the instance of the example I gave earlier. Do you know that these people operate even in our banking sector, in our agricultural sector, in ministries, even in schools? Can't you recall that there is this particular lecturer that because he wants you to get his handout, he will manufacture certain theories that will end up failing students. While they are in school, they are in the market, they are in our towns, they are everywhere. I think the National Orientation Agency, our value system, we need to revisit our value system. Federal government should do more in investing in human capital development, in building people. Patriotism needs to become a course. We need to start afresh. We need to start teaching patriotism in the simplest way that people can understand. People need to understand that for every crime that is committed is actually haunting and affecting. You know, you might be benefiting. You know, when you commit a crime and you get something, the proceed, you might think that you are in luxury, but at the end of it, boomerang. It will still come back to haunt your community or to haunt you.
Let me ask you this, and that will serve as the final question for the day. With all this happening now,
yes,
if you go down to the south, with what happened in Delta and part of Bayelsa State, you discover that even till this moment, the communities, some of them are finding it difficult to even go to the river area for them to get fish,
yes,
which is their source of also
yes,
living. While in the north, people find it difficult to go to the farm where they can definitely get their harvest from and then take it to the market for them to be able to sell or for them to be able to consume. Now, it all boils down to food security. What advice will you give the government now with respect to how we can manage this issue of food insecurity? Justin,
do you think we have food insecurity in Nigeria?
But do
you think we have the challenge of food in this country? We do have challenge of, it's just inflation. The issue we have, that's not the question you're asking. But the point is this, we need to understand, just like, you know, there are certain things I can say on this program. As a student of peace and conflict resolution for 4 years in the university, you know, I'm not just speaking this way. I have some level of research, the level of understanding to understand that some people do not want Nigeria to progress. And because some of them are major financier to some of the people we have in position of authorities and influence, you will find out that the country is not moving the way it should move. There is nothing like food security. There are people who pay farmers to bury food, to destroy food. There are people in this part of the world that gives farmers money that this food, instead of shipping this food to the south, destroy them. There are times that food were not allowed due to certain association of people because they want to protest certain actions. That food should not, when they started losing and they see that people can actually sufficiently feed themselves for some days, that was when they now came back to their senses. You can imagine that kind of art.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, and definitely you are always a delight for us to have you such conversation, which is very, very intense. The issue of security, food security, is one major aspect that we can also use to make the country better. But then when we're having food insecurity, definitely inflation and the rest, it will definitely affect us. And I hope and I pray that the government will be able to do something as urgent as it is. So this is how far we can go today on the afternoon edition, discussing the issue of food security. The issue of security and economy is very, very important, and we can hear from Honorable Olaruwaju Fobi telling us on the ways we can go. If the government knows these people, definitely you have to name them, shame them, and prosecute them. That's how far we can go today on the program. My name is Isanu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.